There are two aspects of big data. I think the first point which you made is very valid. I think there is a certain amount of apprehension because you must know the right questions to ask, to be able to find the answers. The first step in finding an answer is to ask the right questions. And I think if you are not able to frame a business problem that calls upon the big data, then obviously the word big data has no meaning. Correct? So it is clearly a technology which is becoming available, but the full impact or the full usage of the technology is still not fully understood by most businesses and by most individuals. Point number two, as we said, that one of the fastest growing jobs in the world is now that of a data scientist. A data scientist is a person who is able to translate a business problem and then frames the right type of question so that you can get the answer, right? So if you see, the dimension of big data is I take unstructured data, I make it structured, and then I'm able to run different type of queries. But the key point still remains is framing the right question. And I think it is that, and for that you must have the deeper understanding of the business. And I think that is the key point which is still hampering the adoption of big data. But I think one should not look at it in that fashion because it's all said and done a very, very new technology which is coming in. And I'm sure as we go forward, you will have a lot more adoption in the marketplace. Very interesting question that you asked, and there are two aspects of it. One is, as you rightly said, I think the most popular operating systems in the handheld space is very clearly the iOS as the Android. But it is also a fact that neither of these two are particularly corporate standards, correct? And that's a dilemma that most people are facing. So one of the initiatives that in Fujitsu we have taken is we have created a mobility lab in our consulting arm in Pune. And the objective is today a lot of customers are realizing that they have to make their corporate information available on these handheld devices like your smartphone, which could be Android smartphone or a tablet. So there is a lot of work that is required to convert these applications so that they can run on the form factor of a mobile screen as well as on these operating systems like iOS and Android. So that's the work that we are doing, right? And you can see that applicability across a wide spectrum. On the other hand, yes, there is a concept of BIOD. One of the examples is in one of the large multinationals in India. Fujitsu, one of the challenges for a CIO is who manages these, who maintains these, right? Because your traditional maintenance contract was for desktops and laptops. But if you also bring smartphones into it, you bring tablets from it, from multiple different sources, who manages them, right? From an upgrade point of view, from a patch point of view, and so on and so forth. So we have just recently signed a contract with this large multinational, which one of my other speakers referred to. 13,000 devices across the length and breadth of the country. Fujitsu is managing it. So from a customer point of view, at least one of his headache, that where do I have a single source of maintaining these devices, we have been able to address. Our approach is fourfold. Okay, I think the fundamental point is on applications, but we believe that you also cannot take a stand today and say I will not touch cloud. One way or the other, you have to touch cloud. So what we are telling our clients is that you pick up maybe a non-mission critical application, get your hands wet, get into the cloud, try it out. Don't try out on critical application, try out on less critical application, but do start building up expertise within your organization in terms of how to manage in cloud, right? And we are ready to work with customers to identify what applications they can do from cloud, what applications they do on-site from their own infrastructure. The second part is obviously building up the cloud infrastructure, and there again, organizations have a choice. They can go with public cloud, they can have their own private cloud, or they can have a combination of the both, right? And today we have all the necessary plumbing to be able to help customers to either design their own private cloud or to go to a public cloud. The third aspect of cloud is the devices with which you will touch the cloud, and we just spoke about it in the last question that you asked, right, in terms of various form factors. And the fourth part is really the services angle, which is really to give that right kind of consulting and right kind of implementation services to customers so that all of this becomes a reality. If you ask my honest opinion, I think businesses have still not fully understood the capability of the social media. And as you rightly say, it can be a double-edged sword, because if you don't manage it well, a negative news can actually spread very, very fast in the social media than you will otherwise have, right? So I think it calls for a lot of maturity from businesses to really leverage the power of social media. I would be very honest to say that most businesses still have not understood how to use the social media. HPC adoption in the education and research segment. Within the education and research segment, clearly we see a lot of adoption around the life sciences space, right? So that is one area where we are seeing there is a lot of adoption of HPC. The second area we are also seeing is in the automotive space, where a lot of design and engineering work, as you are aware of, is happening in India, and almost all companies, including multinationals, are designing models specifically for the Indian market. So there is a large amount of R&D, which includes CAD, CAE, PLM, which is happening in the Indian marketplace, and underlying all of that is high-performance computing. So to our minds, these are the two main segments for driving the growth of HPC. It looks a little far-fetched, but it has already happened. I think I gave an example of the E2O launch from Mahindra & Mahindra, and it has already got built into E2O, right? So they're not only talking about a product, an electric car, but a whole ecosystem of services built around the car, right? Charging stations and navigation aids and so on and so forth, correct? So, some of it looks a little far-fetched, and one can even question that is a developing market like India ready for it. But as Mahindras have shown, some of it is an actual reality in the Indian marketplace. See, one of the things about technology is that if you use technology in an intelligent way, you can actually leapfrog generations of in-between steps, right? We have seen that happening with wireless mobile phones. In India, we pretty much skipped the entire landline phone technology, right? From a country with no telephone or a very low telephone density, we went to such a high telephone density only because of the wireless network, correct? So it is possible if you use technology properly to be able to leapfrog. But yes, examples are few and far between, and it definitely is a challenge for us in business, amongst all of us in the society, to ensure that we adopt technology the right way so that it becomes an advantage rather than as an inhibitor. We see India as a big country for a SAP services practice point of view, because in India, as I said, 1/3 of our technical resources are all SAP resources. And given the fact that Indians are very value driven, right, we believe that India can be a crucible for some of the services. If we can make that services work in the Indian context, we find that it will find resonance in other developing markets. So Fujitsu's overall growth strategy obviously is around developing markets, which is India, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia region, the South Africa, Russia, and so on and so forth. And a lot of the Indian solutions, including our banking solutions as an example, there is a lot of resonance in these markets, right? So Fujitsu is also saying that if some of these solutions we can make it successful in the Indian marketplace, it paves the way for similar deployment in other emerging markets.